Hello, beautiful.
Hi,
There you are.
how are
Elizabeth's in the
you?
house.
It's good to see
I
you.
know it's been so long since I've seen your beautiful face, like in person, not just on the
Yes,
gram.
I know.
How is life?
Life is good. I mean, it's been crazy, obviously, it's almost 2 years since I moved to Naples.
Wow.
So, starting a business over from scratch where you don't know anyone.
Totally, right? It's like you have a business, but
Yeah,
it exists in its name and you have the experience, but you don't have the connections, right?
yeah. And Naples.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough here.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you make it look easy, I tell you that. I'm like, wow, she's doing really well. Look at that girl go.
But I am out there. I am
Yeah.
networking. I'm everywhere.
You're hustling. Yeah.
Yes.
It's paying off. And I'm so excited to dive into it and talk about all the things today.
Okay.
Um, I know Vera had sort of the topic would be a little bit more specific about getting PR,
Yeah.
but I'd also love to just do a little in the beginning, like, because you've been on the podcast before, right? And I'll send people to go listen to that episode and like catch up and like, where are you at? Because when we
Yeah.
chatted, had you moved yet or were you
I
about to
had
move?
just moved.
You had just moved. Okay.
Yeah.
So it
I
would,
had,
I think it would be really interesting for people to hear about just a little bit of like that, what you just said. Like, what is
yeah.
it like? You have an existing business, but essentially you're starting from scratch. Like maybe just talk a little bit about that because that also,
Yeah.
I think it helps them have some perspective with, it's not like you're long and established in this city. So getting PR is a no, is a no brainer.
No.
It's
And
a
I think
whole
it
new thing.
all ties together, like getting yourself out there, networking, building a business from scratch, and then you have to get all this press. So it really all ties in together.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just dive right in. Okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
clap. I'm going to welcome you. I'll let you introduce just like your name and who you are, and then we'll dive right in.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Welcome to the podcast, Elizabeth. It's so nice to see your face again.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's so amazing to see you again. I love it.
I know. I can't believe it's been, I don't even know when the last time was you were on the podcast. I know it was episode 126, but I don't know when we recorded that. It was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think it was about a year and a half ago
Yes.
when I
Okay.
had just
So
moved. Yeah.
we're going to talk about your big move, where you're at today, and like your amazing success and all the things you're doing so that other designers can do them too in their own cities. But
Yeah.
before we get there, maybe just give everyone a little intro for those who don't know who you are.
I am Elizabeth Cinquini. I am the owner of Elizabeth Cinquini Interiors. We are a full service interior design firm. I started my business in New York City after about 10 years of working in corporate design. I left the corporate world, started my own company, built it from scratch just through referrals. And then after several years of being somewhat established, having like the best year I ever had in business, I decided to move to Florida to a place called Naples, which I had never been, didn't have any connections, had no clients, and essentially had to start over.
Okay. What? That's a lot. I love it. I love it. I love that. I love it. Like, I'm finally built my business and everybody knows me and I'm doing well. I'm like, hey, let's leave.
Yes.
And guys, if you're listening right now, go check out the first episode I did with Elizabeth because we're not going to dive into that whole story. It's a really good story, but it's from the episode is titled, it's actually episode 126. And hold on a second here. I can tell you specifically what it's about because I think it's a really good title. It's From the Chaos of NYC to a Peaceful New Way of Doing Business with Elizabeth Cinquini. So that was back in September of 2022. Okay. So Elizabeth, what has changed? Like, just catch me up here. So you had just moved and it was going to be so peaceful
Yeah.
because
And
it's
it
Florida.
is. Florida is peaceful. I love Florida. I love living here. I love the quality of life we have here. Um, but at that time, when we spoke in September, I was in Florida about 3 months. Luckily for me, before I moved, I had secured three big jobs in New York City with previous clients that I had. So I did have income and work to keep me busy because I knew building a business somewhere you never knew had been before was going to take some time.
Hmm.
So I did. So I
Interesting.
have been for the past year going back and forth, completing those projects. And actually, in March, about 2 weeks ago, I was in New York, finished the last of the three custom built homes. So wrapped that up. We did the photo shoot. It's amazing. And then I came back home and I was like, okay, do I
That's
take
it.
more jobs in New York or now I really have to start getting work in Florida?
Right.
So for the past year and a half, I've been networking like crazy, meeting with contractors, builders. Naples, where I am, really has an amazing community for small businesses, which I didn't even know before we moved here, but there is a lot of opportunity. There are networking events every day. You can immerse yourself in so much. So it's really putting yourself out there. Like, this is not for the weak, especially in the industry that we are in, where we are looking for those luxury clients and the projects are big. And, I didn't really want to settle and do one room here or there. Like I
Mm.
knew the projects I wanted and I knew the clients I wanted, and I was willing to wait for that.
Wow, I love that. What would you say was the hardest part of moving your business from an established, I guess you had an established name for yourself, we'll call it, in New York City to a new city? Like, what is the hardest part of moving a business to a new city?
It was basically like I had to get people to know who I was. Like when I left New York, I had the best year I ever had. I had a ton of clients. I had people reaching out all the time. And so the next project was very easy to come along. But then now I'm here, I don't know anybody. So I just really had to, and I'm a shy person for the most part. So for me to like just start going to play, I had to go to events and places by myself and just try to start talking to people and meeting people. And so that was, I was really out of my comfort zone, but I'm so grateful for it because it pushed me to really take all of these steps to build my business. And I've really met some amazing people and just planting the seeds. I mean, for the past year and a half, I've been planting seeds everywhere. And now they're all starting to pay off. I'm starting to get all the calls. I will go places now. People will know me from my social media. They'll have seen me in a magazine. They're like, oh my God, I follow you on Instagram. So it's all paying off, but it takes time and you have to be patient. And I
Oh,
feel like a lot
yes.
of people aren't patient and they'll give
Yeah.
up and they'll get discouraged. And it's hard. And sometimes you're like, oh my God, when is this going to pay off? But you got to stick with it and it will all pay off.
So it's so interesting. It's like a lot of people are, and I could speak to this because I fantasize about leaving Toronto and moving to a new city or a country or planet. I don't know, right? And it's scary because it feels like, in some ways, like you're throwing it all away in the sense of, here I am. And like, how many years were you in business in New York? Like in
So
your
I
interior design?
started my business in 2015. So
Okay.
that's 7 years.
7 years, like that's right when you start to hit your stride, I feel like, as a business owner. The first 5 years can be hell, right? And you are just working your butt off to establish your name, to get the projects, and you're finally hitting your stride. Obviously, we forgot to mention you're also a POP alumni, so you took Power of Process,
Yes.
right? And
Mhm.
so you're getting your systems totally ironed and everything, and you're starting to land. And I remember when we talked in the last episode, you talked about how, you changed your process and your pricing,
Yeah.
and you immediately started to attract different clients, and even past clients were coming back and paying your new pricing, your new fee structure, following your new process. So things
Yeah.
were humming along.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I'm going to move. And it translates, obviously, you have all the experience, but
Mhm.
it's almost like starting all over again.
It is definitely starting all over again. It
So then,
really.
so you mentioned like you went out, you started to hustle, you started to do things, and you're a shy person, which I'm actually so surprised to hear because I do see your face all over Instagram. And guys, give Elizabeth a follow. I love your pool talks. You're always in your pool. It's like, let's just remind people that I'm in Florida. I love it. But you, excuse me, my telephone's ringing at the office. I hope you can't hear it. But how did you find which events to go to? How did you know where to network? Like when you're a brand new city, like you said, you didn't know anyone. How do you figure that out?
So I actually did a lot of research on Instagram. I'm finding out who's who, where are the places to be, what are the hot spots, like which magazines, what are people reading? I did research and then I sort of started immersing myself in those different areas, those different network groups, like the different magazines that have events. And that's where I started meeting people. And in the beginning, you're going to everything, right? And then after a couple of months, even when I got to that year point, I'm like, okay, now I'm being selective. I know like what's the right environment, where are the right people. And so you got to get selective with where you're spending your time and your energy. So really honing in on that. And then just again, when you meet someone, it's about building a relationship, following up. I am constantly setting appointments. Let's meet for coffee. Let's meet for lunch. I'm going to this cocktail event. Like I make sure, and I had a mentor that told me this. He was like, you have to make sure your calendar is full every day. You need to have appointments. You need to have a full pipeline because then you don't have the time to get distracted and get lazy about it. You always have something going on. And it's so true. And that's why I always book out my calendar 3 weeks in advance. And every day I'm reaching out to someone to follow up, to make an appointment. Let's have lunch. Let's have coffee. Because if people don't get to know you and get to trust you, they can't recommend you. And so this past year and a half was really building that where people can see me on Instagram, they see me at events, they see that what I'm speaking about, I'm executing, they're seeing my projects come to life. So they're trusting me. I'm building that rapport with them. And this way I have strangers come up to me and be like, oh my God, I have someone I recommended you the other day. And I don't even really know them, but they feel like they know me. So that's really, really important.
Okay. So how much do you think of that? Because I love everything you're saying. I'm like taking a million notes, by the way. How much, two questions. First question is, what do you think has been more effective for you in a new city? Because I know this, we're going to start talking about publicity and getting press in a minute, but I just want to kind of lay the groundwork, right? Um, what do you think has been more effective? Meeting one on one with people or attending industry events, if you had to pick?
I would say the industry events are good for that initial introduction of seeing who you vibe with. And then from that point, like if I go to an event, there may be one or two people that I meet that I'm like, okay, that could be a good connection for me. Then I'm reaching out. So it's a good way to meet a lot of people, but hone in on who's right for you.
So if I'm hearing correctly, it's not enough to go to the events and
No.
chat. You need to then take the relationship to the next level and
Yeah,
go on a date.
because they got to remember you and they got to have that personal interaction with you and get to know your story.
I love this. I
No.
love this. Guys, listening, take some freaking notes, please. This is really good. Even
Yeah.
for me, I'm thinking like that's something it's interesting to hear you say that. It's very like reaffirming for me because this year, one of my intentions is to network and just meet with people and try every week to meet somebody for coffee or go for a walk or something because those connections sometimes it's intentional but more often than not it's not even intentional. It's just, hey, I like what you're doing, I want to connect with you because who knows what opportunity may come in the future or what idea might just come from a conversation as opposed to sitting in the rut or hamster wheel of take the kids to school, go to work, pick up this kids, have the dinner, put the kids to bed, maybe get some me time and go to sleep. and like on repeat.
Exactly. And it's also about the approach to you also. Like for me, it's always about how can I provide value to you? What problem can I solve for you? Right? And I think that that's important because there has to be an exchange. For me, I never want to meet with someone with the intention of like, what can I get out of this? Like, we need to build a relationship first. I need you to get to know me. I want to get to know you and see, at some point in the future, something may come of this. Like I met with the builder the other day and we had a great rapport. We met in an industry event and I reached out to him and he's like, listen, I'm going to be very honest with you. He has two big development projects happening. He goes, I love everything about you and your work. He goes, but I'm legally under contract with another designer. He goes, so if you still want to meet, I'm happy to have a conversation. And probably most people at that point would have been like, oh no, forget it. Because they're not getting anything immediately. But I was like, I absolutely still want to meet with you. We had coffee, we spoke for 2 hours, and we are building a relationship where if he hears of something, he will think of me now.
And it may not be to work with him, but
Exactly.
likely he has other friends who are also builders looking for designers or a potential client that he can't serve or what have you. It's a long
Exactly.
game, is
It's
what
a
I'm
it's a
hearing.
long game. Yes. Especially with the clients that we want. It's a lot of planting seeds and it's going to take a while. I'm at a year and a half now, but now I'm starting to see all the work pay off.
Oh my God, I love this. I feel like we're going to meet. We're going to have you on the podcast every like year and a half, and we're going to follow your trajectory of your career. I love it. I
Yes,
love it. This podcast
definitely.
is going to exist forever. So we're just going to follow your entire life.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, my second question that came out of that was, what do you think's been more effective for you? The social media, because I've definitely seen you up your social media game,
Mhm.
or the in-person connections?
I think at the end of the day, it's the in-person connections for sure. 1000%.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's important for designers to hear. I think we get
Yeah.
caught up in, the comparison trap, seeing how well somebody's doing on Instagram, how many
Yeah.
follows. Oh my God, look at her reel. Like you had a reel. I haven't paid attention lately that got like how many thousands of views or
Yeah.
something?
I've had a few that have gone viral. There's one that's up to like 750,000 views right now. And I've gotten in the last 6 months, I want to say 12,000 more followers. Okay, but has it turned into
Yeah.
sales? No. So
Yeah.
it's great because you have followers, but at the end of the day, it's the personal relationships, it's the reaching out to people. That's how you're getting business.
Hmm.
Especially for us, like there's nothing I'm selling that's like a low ticket item that is for the masses. So
Yeah.
yes, if you
100.
have that kind of a business, it could be beneficial, but
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know about your city, but I know in my city, some of the most financially successful designers
mhm,
don't even have an Instagram presence,
yeah,
right?
I
The
think
rest of
it's
us are
important.
all kind of getting caught up in the like vanity metrics of it.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, when you really go out and you make the connection and you have those relationships with people, that's where you start to get those, especially the bigger projects, I would say.
yeah. And I think the social media and the advertising, the marketing, it's all very important because when people Google my name, there's a lot of things that come up and I have credibility. I think it's good for building credibility and
Hmm.
building your portfolio. So I do think it's very important. But at the end of the day, it's the personal relationships, meeting people one-on-one, going to the events, putting yourself out there, networking. And that's how I met all my press contacts to be featured in magazines, writing editorials, like all of that came from those kind of networking opportunities.
Okay, so now let's dive into that because I'm so excited to talk about this. Designers love press. Um, but, let's face it, not everybody can afford to hire a publicist who
Right.
is doing the pitching on your behalf. And
Mhm.
so it is my understanding that a lot of the press that you've received since you've been in Naples, you have got yourself in the
Yeah.
sense that you've pitched and so
Yeah.
talk to me about that. Like, how do you go about getting press?
Okay. So several events that I've gone to, like I went to an event hosted by a magazine. So I met the owner of the magazine. We have a conversation. He knows I'm new to the area. So he's like, there's an opportunity. How can I, And Naples is very good about helping new businesses. So he was very forthcoming with me, and he's like, well, I would love to feature your business or write, at first it was a little tiny blurb. And then, a couple months later, it was a full editorial. Of course it's an exchange, right? So you may have to like advertise and maybe get like a half a page ad or whatever you can afford. But a lot of times if you do an ad, you'll get editorial. They'll ask you to come back and do more. So
I think that's actually really important that you've shared that,
yeah,
Elizabeth, because that was something that I didn't realize until I started working with a publicist in my early, the first couple of years of running my business. And what I learned from that experience was it's a pay to play game often. And so when you work, in my case, the publicist had clients that were vendors, that were product companies. And so they were placing ads in these magazines. And so she would leverage that to get one of her designers featured.
yeah,
So, you always wonder, like, how does one magazine pick one designer over another? It's not always based on, there's so many factors. Obviously, it's not just that, but it's not just based on talent alone, right? Because there's a
no.
lot of talented designers.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's the type of feature, like, okay, it could be seasonal. It could be this is a small spaces issue, that type of thing. But I think that's important that you share that. I mean, not every publication needs that because they have a lot of ad revenue, but especially if it's a local publication, you
Yeah.
could take out a smaller ad and then in exchange, listen, I want to do an editorial.
They're going to support the people that support them. And I can look at this from a different perspective because before I was in interior design, I worked in the magazine industry. I worked for Condé Nast and Fairchild, which are two of the biggest publication companies, and they have all the top magazines. Back then, over 20 years ago, to get an editorial, it wasn't a pay to play. Like the editorial picked who they wanted.
Mm,
So there was a lot less leverage with advertising. So the industry's completely changed from my personal experience of being in it so long ago to now. Whereas now you kind of need to advertise. And then now you have that relationship with them. And so they're more willing to look at the photos submitted from the people that have supported their magazines for editorial than if you're out the gate, like they don't know who you are. So
absolutely. It's like anything in life, right?
yeah,
Like, let's
it's a
call a
business.
spade a spade. It's a
It's a
business, but
business.
it's also, it's people, it's a people business. So we all
Yes.
want to help each other, but I'm more likely to help somebody who's helping me
Right.
back. Like, who do I have on my podcast? Do you know how many podcast requests we get a week? It is
Mhm.
unbelievable. We can't even keep up with the requests for people to be guests on this podcast.
Right.
And we go through and we have to handpick based on topic. Obviously, we want to make sure we're bringing value, but
Yeah.
also based on who are these people? Do I have any connection with them? Have they
Right.
taken Power of Process? Are they one of our biggest fans? Can I support them? Like, can I return the favor? The same as
Right.
in a magazine.
Right. And now that like I just completed a big project, so now I'm getting all my professional photos back. So now I'm going to reach out to all of the magazines that I have worked with over the past year because now I have a project and I'm going to present it to them and see where I can get it featured.
So let's talk about the editorials. You mentioned writing. This is
Yeah.
something I love for you to talk about this. I think there's a bit of a misconception because this was mine that
Mhm.
magazines are just going to call you and then they're just going to write about your project, just send them some photos. But it doesn't always work that way, right? Sometimes you have to do the writing.
Yeah.
Talk to designers about that experience.
Yeah. So in my experience in the past year, mostly everything that I have submitted, I've had to write. There have been instances where I think two of the articles they interviewed me. So, that's recorded and they're using those statements. But for the editorials, I'm writing them and submitting them. They may tweak them, but it's very different. Like I said, when I was in magazines a long time ago, editorial handled all of that. They
They
wrote it.
had writers,
They
they had
didn't
teams of
need your
writers.
approval,
Yeah.
because it was what they wanted, the point of view they wanted to say. Now you're submitting everything, and sometimes they may tweak it or they may use it as is. So,
Absolutely. And so that was my experience too. So it's interesting that,
yeah.
and I think it's interesting that you know the world of magazines from before. That's
Mhm.
so fascinating. And what I see the trend is just magazines, it's just not as lucrative a business, right? So they don't have the revenues to have the editorial, the writers that are doing all the interviews. And some of the bigger magazines still do, the big national publications, but some of the smaller ones,
Mhm.
they don't. And if you can make their life easier, they're
Yeah.
more likely to pick you.
Yes.
So,
And you get to tell your own story.
yes. So, talk to me about that. How do you decide what to write? So, if you're submitting, if you've finished this beautiful project, how do you determine what aspects to write about? Because there's so many things that as a designer, you could talk about color, you could talk about flow, you could talk about the family, you could talk about
Yeah.
Lord knows what.
So right now I have a partnership with Hot Living, which is a luxury lifestyle brand. So they have a magazine, which I was featured in, but they also have a design program where every week there's a topic that they select, and then I write almost like a blog post about it from my point of view. So that's something that I've been doing for the past couple of months, and it's great because it gets your name out there, it's more exposure, and it's getting your point of view out there.
So they provide the topic, but what if you're
Yeah,
trying to submit a space for publication, like you finish this house, let's say in New York,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Are you sort of giving them the angle or ideas for the angle?
So yeah, what I'll do is I'll reach out to the editors. Send them photos of the project or highlight ideas that I think are important, and then get their feedback. And then
Before you write
hopefully,
it.
right. And then hopefully there's an issue coming up that aligns with, my project with what they're looking to do, and it'll be a good fit.
Hmm.
But I think it's easy to have that dialogue with the editors or the publishers. And from my experience, they want to support you. If you're supporting them and they like you, they want to give you those opportunities.
How would you say when you send these emails to these editors? I know designers are thinking, okay, they're like, okay, like I want to do this. Like, how can I do this? When you email an editor, how much information is in that email? Like, how do you capture their attention before you really have an established relationship with them? Because I
Well,
imagine they get a lot of submissions, these magazine
yes.
editors.
So I don't like cold call email. Like I make sure if I'm emailing them, it's somebody that I've met, that I have a relationship with. Because I feel like that, again, cold call emails, I mean, I have not had any luck with that. I don't really think that works personally. I just feel like it kind of goes into email heaven to die and no one ever gets back to you. But that's just my experience. So, again, you have to get them on the phone. You have to get them to know who you are, get their attention.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So no cold emails, but you are spending a lot of time in that cold introduction through approaching people at events,
Yes, approaching them,
which is a
let's,
lot scarier than sending a
yes,
cold email. Let's
yes.
be honest.
Yes. And with magazines though, they're very interested to speak to you and meet someone new because it could be a new advertiser.
Right.
So they're very open to it. So it's not so
Amazing.
scary.
So, what would be your biggest tips? So, if somebody's hasn't photographed a project yet,
Mhm.
but they know they want to submit it to a magazine, like, are there tips when you are photographing your space that you want to keep in mind if it's going to be published?
I mean, honestly, I just try to stay true to my vision as a designer of what I like and how I design the space and how I want it highlighted. Obviously, photographers have their own ideas. I like to work with the photographer, but I always want to tell them my point of view, like specific shots that I want, because at the end of the day, it's representative of how I design the space. And then hopefully the editors will like it and they'll select some of them to use in the editorial, you know but I have to be true to myself. I can't shoot it worrying about, well, will they take this photo, will they like this one? I think if you just let go of that pressure and just let it flow easily and be true to who you are, it will happen a lot easier.
Yeah, I love that. I remember working with the photographer once and they were like, well, if we want to get a center, what would we call it? Like a center page spread or like a 2-page spread, we need to make sure we get a horizontal, which I thought was really interesting because, a lot of the times these days, the verticals are the ones that are the most interesting story to tell.
Mhm.
Horizontals can sometimes feel a little bit more um, real estatey, if you will.
Yes.
But if you do want a photo across 2 pages, you
Mhm.
want it to be landscape.
Yes.
Um, and so I was curious if there was anything like that that you consider when you are, and maybe you will now
Yeah.
moving forward, but taking those pictures.
I always want to shoot both ways. I like the verticals better because I feel like you see more of the space. Sometimes the horizontal, I feel like you lose the space, but in the photo shoot that I just finished, we did shoot both ways. So I have both options. And then the vertical is always better for social media.
Right.
So
And
you
then
want to
also
make
your
sure you have,
website. Like
yeah.
that's something too that I learned from working with a photographer. He was like, you need to go into the photo shoot with an intention. Like
Mhm.
what are you using the photos? Like the photos are going to be used for marketing purposes to get clients essentially, right? So you need to be considerate of, okay, are we thinking of pitching this to magazine? Is this for the website? Is it both? Then we need to make sure we cover because on a website, as we all know, landscape works better if you're on a desktop,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's certainly complicated. The technology gods have not made it easy for us designers,
No.
right? But keeping that into consideration. And then I like what you said about just sticking with your design integrity and what was the intention behind the design. And that's something that I've actually, for me, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience where like there's something in the design that matters to you, but the photographer doesn't see it or they don't necessarily value it. And making sure that you really stand up for what you want. And for me, it's always been the decorating. So
Mhm.
it's something that has always been my favorite part is the soft furnishings and the finishes and the decor. And so I feel like I'm always in these homes with this photographer and he's like, "Oh, let's get this shot." It's like of the fireplace that's an architectural feature that I didn't even design because that
Mhm.
it existed in the house and I and he'll set up the shot and he does it and I have to trust my gut and say, "No, I don't want that shot." And I always ask myself, I don't know if you do this too, but like, where am I going to use that shot? Like I
Yeah.
know it's not going to be on my social. It's definitely not going to be on the website.
Mhm.
And if I pitch things to a magazine, I want to showcase my decorating. And so I've always pushed the photographer to say, "Hey, can we get that? Can we get the pinch pleat detail of the drapes?"
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
most photographers I have worked with tend to be more inspired by the architectural, probably
Mhm.
because of the lines and so I find that I'm always pushing them so that I can capture it from my perspective because the thought behind the design was that fabric was the inspiration for the space. And if I can capture that, it's
Mhm.
even a better story to tell a publication.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I feel like based on my experience, I'm kind of a little bit of the opposite because I focus more on the architectural elements and the building of the home. So kitchens, bathrooms, all of those finishes. And then like the photographer will want to take pictures of the coffee table with the flowers on it, which
Right,
is
because everybody
fine,
does
but
that.
like I have this like $20,000 piece of stone on this bar. Like get that. you know?
But
So
and that's where you have to be your own advocate.
right. And sometimes I feel bad. And I've learned over having a lot of photo shoots, you have to speak up and you have to I mean, I don't want to be over their shoulder all the time, but you have to be checking what they're shooting because at the end of the day, you're paying for it and it has to
Yes.
be useful to you.
100%. You always need to look at it. And I think too, like as you start to get published, you start to
Yeah.
see what works and what
Mhm.
looks good in the magazine. And so the next time you have a photo shoot, you're more intentional because you do want to make sure you have a balance of close up and tight shots, but
Yeah.
also some nice overalls and ones that can tell the whole story.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's so funny though, the shot with the coffee table and the flowers is like that's what everybody sees, right? Totally. But you should be getting that stone because honestly, Elizabeth, if that's your passion and if you want to do more of the construction side and like that is a high-end element too to a design.
Of
So you
course.
want to be able to show that so that when the next client comes, they're like, "Oh, I want to do it like that." So that you can
Yeah.
say, well, if they ask, I don't know if you talk about money, but it's like, okay, well, that is a certain level, and that's the level we work at. They see a coffee table with flowers, like, I'm sorry, but anyone could do that.
Right. That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
100.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So what else? Like, what else do you think has been useful? Are there any, maybe even like just little smaller tactics that you've done, or mindset shifts that you've had to make
Mhm.
in this new city with this somewhat quote air quotes new business to
Yeah.
get the word out about who you are and to get that press?
Yeah. So, oh my God, you just have to be resilient. Like you have to keep at it. It is a long game. You have to every day be taking steps to be meeting people, cultivating relationships, getting yourself out there. Your network is your net worth. Like it's people have your money. So you just have to meet the right people that want the value and the service that you're providing to exchange that for money. It's very simple when you think about it. Like we stress about, oh, I have to make money, I have to make money. No, you don't have to make money. And a mentor told me this. He's like, everyone that you talk to, like people have your money. You just have to show them enough value. Well, they'll want to exchange and give you their money.
Ooh, I
And
like
that
that.
totally changed my perspective on money. It doesn't feel so overwhelming when you put it that way. It's just about meeting the right person that has it, you
I
know?
love that. That is a mindset shift. Hello, that is
Yeah.
a monumental mindset shift.
Yeah. You just
People
have to
have,
collect it. You don't have to make money. You just have to collect it from the right person. And I'll actually tell you this story because this ties into power of process. So I got very specific with who my client is, the type of projects that I want, and not compromising on that. Even if I have to have no projects for a little while and wait, because I'm a believer in if I'm going to fill my pipeline with projects I don't really want, now I don't have the space for the good projects to come to me. So I waited. And last week I got an email from someone who reached out a long time ago who I hadn't heard from. She emails me and she's like, I just bought a house, $2 million house. We're moving in this week. I need furniture. I need help. So I had her, I did a Zoom, I scheduled it right away. We had our Zoom. Before, at the end of the Zoom, I got her to commit to the consultation. We said we scheduled a date, sent her the invoice. She paid it in full for the consultation, went to her house, had the consultation, and I was like, I'm going to get back to you within 24 hours with a proposal. Because I remember that you said, don't leave without scheduling a time to come back and review the proposal.
yes.
So, because I used to email the proposals
I
and
know,
then
so did I.
it.
So did I.
So, so I actually scheduled, I said, I'm going to come back tomorrow morning and I'm going to present you with the proposal, go through it all in person. So literally within 24 hours. And I did that, went through everything with her, my pricing. She did not haggle with me on pricing. She signed, wrote me a check for 50% of the fee, and it all happened in 24 hours.
Woo, lady.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And that just happened this week.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So if you my point is you have to get the process, you have to stick to the process and believe in the process. Because I feel like sometimes we have all these
Mm,
processes, but we don't really believe in it. Like, oh my God, what if the client thinks it's too what if this? What if, but I literally drove up to that house and I was like, I am not gonna leave here without a signed contract and a check. Like I'm getting this.
but that's also what's going on in your brain. You are coaching yourself. You are
Yes.
setting your
You
intention. You're
have to.
telling the universe this is going to happen. This is going to be a
Yeah.
great job. Blah 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 blah. And like you fucking excuse me my swearing, you willed that shit. I love it. But you had the process to back you up, and I love that you say that. And I mean, we're not here today to talk about the power of process because
Right.
that's why I called the course that. Because it is, you need to establish it, and then you just need to leave it and stop tweaking. And it's funny, someone asked me recently, like, what is the biggest thing that's held you back over the years of growing your business? And it took me a long time to come up with that. And I was like, you know what it was? It was constantly trying to reinvent the wheel or constantly not feeling confident in the way I did things and
Yeah.
being like, well, I'm going to try what that person's doing, or I'm going to tweak that thing. And then
Yeah.
when I finally was like, no, this is how we do things. And I'm not going to shift from it because I'm exhausted, quite frankly.
Mhm.
That's when things just started to
Yeah.
happen.
And I will never email a proposal again. I will always schedule a meeting and do it in person.
Yeah. Or on Zoom if you have to do it on Zoom.
Right. Yeah, it's a game changer for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. Amazing. Amazing things are happening for you. I love following your journey and I am going to come to Naples. It's so funny. I used to go to Naples for all of our holidays. My mom had a condo there and then she sold it. And now I'm like,
Oh, no.
I never go. So I keep, my
You
kids are like,
have
I
to
want
come down here.
to, I know. Maybe next winter, maybe next winter.
Okay.
I would love to come. I'd love to bring the kids. They're dying to go back to Florida. They think Florida is this magical place because I got them this book one year. It's called, oh, it's a Christmas book. It's like thing about Santa in Florida. Do you know it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we read it every Christmas, and it's like basically Santa goes to Florida on vacation. It's like one big advertisement for Florida, for the whole state, right? It's like, and they go here and they go to this museum and they go to this baseball game and da da da. So the kids are like, Florida's this magical place.
It really is, though, I have to say. Planting palm trees every day, being outdoors.
Yeah, it gets a little hot in the summer. I remember being there once in
Oh,
August and it was a little
yeah.
much for me.
Oh, definitely, definitely gets hot.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm so like I feel very proud of you, but it's that pride sounds like the wrong word because I'm not responsible for your success, but it's just so wonderful and rewarding to watch someone really go for it and just you're doing it. You're doing all the things. And like you said, and I think that's such great advice, and I wrote that down. It's a long game.
Mm,
You've been there for a year and a half. These things take time. And for
yeah,
those listening, I hope this is your reminder that just be patient.
yeah,
Put one foot in front of the other. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. It's not immediately going to be an overnight success. You're not going to immediately, it's not an instant win. I just had a great interview with a Canadian designer, Karen Bond, and she landed her Netflix show, a couple of years ago. And she talked about that experience of getting the Netflix show. And it was actually years in the making. It was
mm,
years in the making of thinking she had a show and then didn't have it, or being on hold with a production company and it
mm,
didn't happen. But she just kept persevering and working on it behind the scenes until the right opportunity came her way. And it
yeah,
sounds like you, Elizabeth, with your
yeah.
business, like you just keep doing all the things. And then at some point, like you went and met this woman, like boom, 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 it
Mhm.
just fell into place so quickly. But
Yeah.
it's not the overnight success of landing that dream client. It's
It
the
took a year and a
years,
half.
like a year and a half, which is actually not that long if you think about it, right?
Yeah, you have to plant the seeds. As long as you know every day you're making steps towards achieving what you want, planting the seeds, you're being proactive and you're doing it, and you're not just sitting around waiting for it to come to you, then
Mm-hmm.
you will have success. If you're just going to sit around and wait, no one's coming for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you
That's
better
the
be
difference.
happy with just sitting at home alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Because not I wish opportunities would fall into our laps, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
You got to
totally.
go out and get them.
I love that. This is such great advice. I love chatting with you. And we're going to give everybody the links to like see all the beautiful things you're doing. But before we get there, what last nugget of wisdom do you have for our listeners today?
I mean, the biggest piece of advice is just to remember that your network is your net worth. Be selective in putting yourselves in the right situations, being around the right people, surrounding yourself mentally, even with what you listen to, where you go, because that really impacts your whole entire life. And it just takes one person you could meet tomorrow that could change the trajectory of your life. And it could be a dream project or a great connection. And that's why you should never get discouraged. And that's why I don't get discouraged, because as much as I do this every day, I'm like, tomorrow could be the day I meet this person or this project comes, and it will all happen. You just got to
Mhm.
keep at it every single day. Keep
I
planting the
love that. I love that advice. And put yourself in the environment where
yes.
the people are that can help you and that where you aspire to be, right?
Right. Like
That's
the clients that you want to work with, where are they?
yeah.
Make sure
Yeah.
you're in those environments.
So interesting. Like you're saying that, and it's got my brain thinking. And I think listeners who are parents can relate to this. Just in Toronto, my sister and her husband were visiting, and they live in Boston,
Mhm.
and they don't have kids, and they came with us, and we took my kids to the park one day. And it was a very nice park, and the neighborhood's not fancy or anything,
Mhm.
fine. And then we went on another day to a different neighborhood, um, to a different park. And that neighborhood, the houses are more expensive. It's a little bit of a more elevated clientele who live there.
Right.
And, kids had a great time. Park was lovely. And it was so interesting to hear my brother-in-law afterwards say how it was so interesting in the second park because the conversations that he heard the other parents having
Mhm.
were about this one guy is starting a hedge fund and he's looking for people who want to get in. Well, shoot. The people in the other park are not starting hedge funds. So you're not going to have an opportunity to get in at the people in the other park. They're quite happy, but they're doing something else. And so there's nothing wrong with either person in either park. But if you are looking to get in the room, to be in the opportunities, to be around the people who then will be interested in giving you your money, because I love that
Mhm.
you said that it's not their money. It's like they have your money,
Yeah,
right? They're going to spend it on a designer. But if you're not
exactly.
there in that park and you're off in the other park, they don't even really know. And they're not finding you on freaking Instagram.
No, exactly. Last night I went to a broker's open at a $7 million property
Ooh, nice.
for networking and meeting the realtors and meeting everyone, very different from the people you're meeting if you're going to a broker's open at a $500,000 property.
Yep.
So,
Those are small, little, distinct differences that sometimes we all know these, obviously,
right.
but you need to be reminded sometimes because we get comfortable.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
sometimes it's scary to play with the big in the big leagues.
Yeah, you have to be confident enough and comfortable enough or uncomfortable enough to push yourself to just say, I'm going to go and I'm going to put myself in that environment.
And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
think that's when the magic happens. It's
Yeah,
not the first time you go to that event or you go to that
right.
park or you go to that broker's open that you like land the dream client.
No.
It's the 17th time you do the thing that now you're
Mhm.
comfortable. You start to see some familiar faces. You're
Yeah.
used to that network that's when things start to flow and jive and all the rest.
Right. And you can say, like, I deserve to be here. Like, I'm contributing something valuable. I can provide value to these people.
Yeah, we have to remind ourselves that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This is so great. I could talk to you all day.
I
Thank you
know.
so much.
Thank you. This was awesome. I love talking to you all the time. So thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. Can you let everybody know where they can find and follow you?
Yes. So on Instagram, it's at Elizabeth Cinquini. Facebook, Elizabeth Cinquini Interiors.
And we will link that in the show notes because I think sometimes the Cinquini might be tricky for some people to spell
Oh,
if they
yeah.
don't have an Italian background.
Cinquini.
Perfect. Thank you. But absolutely keep us posted. I can't wait to follow along, see you continue to get press and see keep doing those reels from the pool because they're fun. I love watching them. You're
Will
going
do.
places. I
Thank you.
love it.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to send you a link with my new project featured in the magazine somewhere.
Woohoo! I love it. And send it my way. I always love sharing the successes of all of our students and our podcast guests. So I really appreciate you keeping me in the loop. I love it. You're
Yes,
so
thank
good at it.
you. Thank
That's
you.
one thing. Before we sign off, I'm just going to say, I love that you do that because I think a lot of people shy away from, and what I'm talking about for those listening is whenever Elizabeth like gets a feature or I don't know, something does really well, not all the time, but often you will just flip it to me in a DM. You'll be like, look, I got this feature. And
Yeah.
sometimes I get busy and I don't share it, but sometimes I share it with my audience. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of other people might be nervous to do something like that. They feel like they're self promoting, but you're
Yeah.
so good at staying in connection and
Mhm.
sharing where you're at. So I like keep doing that.
I will. And it's more just for I share it with you because I'm like thankful for you and you're a part of it of, the collaboration of how I got to the process that I'm at. So it's more for me to share it with you, not
I
really.
know, but that's great. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So anyone who's listening, if you're like, if you've taken POP, you're like, Rebecca's helped me, like, let me know, share it with me.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. I love that. I know we were like, share your nugget. Where can we find you? And then I just kept talking with her. So it was really great. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. I mean, she has such a great attitude. And I love how Elizabeth has really expanded her marketing abilities. Really, having moved to a new city, it can be pretty intimidating. I can only imagine. It's not something that I have done yet. I've sort of grown my business and stayed in the same place. And so I know that for many of you, you're looking to maybe start your business from scratch, like you don't even have one under your belt, or maybe you've moved to a new city, or maybe you just feel like you want to get your stuff in a magazine. I hope this was really tangible and inspiring for you. I know it definitely kicked or lit a fire under my butt to like, let's get back into that commitment that I make about reaching out to people and meeting them for coffee and networking, because that is where the money is. That is where the gold is. But essentially, don't forget, it's a long game. And that is such great advice. Your network is your net worth. It is a long game to get there, but pay attention to where you're spending your time, especially if you're struggling to find the right fit clients and the clients who really have the money to pay you to design what you dream to do. It's funny, I was having a conversation last night with friends saying how, you know, some designers already start out in a network of people with money. And so the first projects they get to work on might even be their own family homes where they have the money to pay for the $5,000 sconce light. Just an example, right? Whereas other designers, we have to slowly get bigger and bigger projects. It's not that we can't design at that level, but if you don't have the clients with the deep pockets to pay for the beautiful thing you want to put in the house, it's going to be really hard to showcase that talent. And so you need to get in the rooms where those people are. And it may not be directly being with those clients in the park, like I mentioned, but it could be being at specific events where some broker or other realtor developer, they're working in that circle. Like, start getting creative. Like, I would encourage you, after listening to this podcast, because I think I'm going to do this, make a list. Where are the places? What are the events? What are the things that you can do? Maybe one thing a week or every month to kind of up level, push yourself out of your comfort zone. Do you go to a charity event? Do you go to that fundraiser at the school? What can you do to level up? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I clearly did. Let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. I know I always say this, but I would love to hear from you. It's true. Also, thank you for those of you who've been leaving a podcast review on iTunes. It means the world to me. I would love to hit 100 reviews this year. I think at the time of recording, we have like 62 reviews. Please go on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, and leave a comment. Let people know exactly what it is about this podcast that you love. Appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.